Okay, so first of all, this
Hello.
is totally fluffy here. See this? So I'm wearing my sweatshirt, and I figured rather than I try to make myself look a little nice for you guys to give you
You look
maybe
fancy.
a change of scene of everybody who's grunging around. But today I said, you know what? It snowed here for a half hour on Long Island, right?
God.
So I am allowed to wear a beautiful, cuddly, fluffy sweatshirt tonight. So that's what I'm doing. And that's,
You're always allowed.
huh?
You're always allowed.
Okay. Terry, I like your background.
Yeah,
Huh.
this is where I want to be.
Oh, is that a curtain? What is that?
It's a curtain. So
Oh, I
my
like
computer's
that.
against the wall. This is usually what I look at when I'm on the computer. But
Oh, wow. I think I'm going to get the background with like the Chippendale dancers.
There you go.
But then nobody
We're not recording.
Hey, I got a video of the full Monty, if that helps. So there you go.
Well, I'll watch. Probably get a bigger viewership.
We just needed live action instead of just still. Yeah, we've been in too long. All right, so let's delve in. Anybody who's not muted, just go ahead and mute yourself. So otherwise it'll keep toggling back and forth in the recording. So I'm happy to see you. I absolutely love scrolling through and seeing all your faces. And just to show you how happy I am, I chose this mug to have my dandelion caramel nut tea tonight. Yeah, here's to dandelions. So I got a lot of answers and submittals. Look at Jennifer. Oh, Jennifer. All right, Jennifer, unmute and speak so that you pop up on the big screen. And we can all
I
see
couldn't
it.
resist, Karen.
Oh, that's. What you've just indicated here, Jennifer, is that I am capable of instantaneous manifestation. Okay.
Ask and you shall receive.
Oh, that's good.
I feel a little uncomfortable here, I got to tell you.
Okay. That was really good. I love it. All right. So I did get a lot of people that submitted the homework. Thank you. I appreciated it. And I read through them too. And so when I was compiling it, it was really wonderful just to read how everybody was finding different ways to be soulful, to feel soulful, and to really pay attention to using that lens in looking at the world and looking at their families and looking at everything. It's amazing how much it changes your feeling about a day when you allow your focus to be where you want it to be instead of kind of getting caught up in being a witness only. So just even having that lens there of saying, how are things improving? How am I becoming more soulful? How are others becoming more soulful? It really helps because the opportunity we have here is to create ongoing positive change. We don't know when there'll ever be a more unifying opportunity on this planet for us to shift the way we return to what we consider our normal lives. But if we enter into our lives the way we exited that bit, if we continue on patterns that we're not providing our lives happiness or providing opportunities for the world to be the way you want it to be, then we're not taking maximum advantage of this absolutely phenomenal time. So really being contemplative when we return is important to help the universe in the shifts that are possible, okay? There's one thing that I didn't note last time when we were talking about our radiant energy and how we have power in our rays that extend farther. When I was talking about how, we are high vibing and our rays extend far, and other people who are living in ego, their rays don't extend as far. One of the things I didn't mention, which is really critical from 2020 on, is to remember that even if you're vibrating at a higher vibrational energy, which I know everyone on this call and everyone that watches the video is certainly well above average, well above average. You have to remember that we still only have one vote each at the polls, okay? So one of the reasons why I've put a lot of effort in listening to guides into how we see the world since the end of 2018, there's been an increased emphasis on action, suggestions for actions from the guides. And I now understand that the purpose is because even when we're increasing our vibrational energy and we're having such pronounced positive influence on others, when it comes to the polls, we only have one vote. Each of us shows up and we get to vote one time. So what we want to concentrate on too is really being very creative in how we influence the world. I'm going to start by just saying a little story that I have used before. But when my older kids were younger and they were in, ultimate sports, sports where people really care about the outcome, that kind of thing. I don't know what you call it, but elite, that's it. So I was learning how to talk to guides then, and I was beginning to see every single thing differently. So everything I showed up to do, I saw it through this new lens, the lens of love, the lens of ego versus soul. And one day at a practice, the parents were standing around, probably about a dozen parents, and they were doing what they normally do, which is, if Nicole hadn't hogged the ball during the game, we probably would have won. She's got to learn to assist. She's such a ball hog. And then they talk about another kid, and then they talk about this, and it's just like this entire complaining gab fest. So what I did was in the group, I said, oh, how did you guys see Jen's left-footed goal last week? Like, how amazing is that? She always thinks that her left leg is so weak or her left foot is weak, but how amazing was that? And then all of a sudden, very quickly, it spread like virally, and 12 people were talking about something positive and something good. And I have to tell you, it made such a change in the energy of that group. And after I left, and I was not one to hang out with parents as much as maybe other people did. And I looked back and I understood why. It was because I didn't enjoy gossip. I didn't enjoy negativity. I didn't enjoy people talking about people behind their backs. And the more I improved my level of awareness, the more distasteful that was, the more repellent that was to me. But it was amazing to see that I could just toss a sentence into a group and it caught fire. So we have to remember that good catches fire just like bad can catch fire. So what we toss into the world, what we say to people, how we react, what we focus on, if you really want to begin to let the ripples of this positive possibility grow, and try to toss some really cool things in there as often as possible. What people don't react well to, nor do they change their behavior because of it, is if I had said something like, come on guys, that's not nice. Nicole's doing the best she can. Even if it was a thoughtful thing to say and I was calling people out on that, it doesn't make the adults, or it doesn't make anyone feel good because they've been criticized and they've been reprimanded. So in the end, what would happen is everybody would be like, they don't want me in the group because I make them reflect upon their own poor choices. So they would just kind of have, kind of like a pushback feeling toward me. But if I do just change and say, did anyone see Jennifer's goal? They don't realize at all that they have been redirected to something positive. They just get caught up in the thought and they run with the ball. So we can't expect to put ripples of positive possibility into the waters of humanity if we use criticism and we use negativity. People do not respond to criticism, and they do not respond positively to negativity. So that's the key, is to find ways to help people because they feel better. You are helping. It might sound like it's manipulative, but one of the first things I heard from guides when I felt like it might be manipulative, one of the first things I heard was take the word manipulative or manipulate and see that the root core word is Mani, and Mani is the German word for hand. So it actually means to move things. So we don't have to attach a negative connotation or emotion when we're shifting and moving conversations to more positive perspectives. Just think that moving something from positive to negative, even from negative to positive, even if people aren't aware that you're doing it, it is manipulative, but everyone is manipulating everything every minute in their entire lives. No matter what we do, we expect an outcome, and we're doing everything we can to manipulate that outcome. All right. So, for example, just to show you this, I brushed my teeth before I came on tonight. So, yeah, not that it matters that much to you, right? Because you can't really tell. But so I brushed my teeth. Now, I manipulated every step of it. I put the water on 30 seconds earlier so my water could be warm instead of cold. I grabbed the toothpaste from where I thought I would like that it gets squeezed from the bottom instead of that, squeeze in the middle. When I put the toothpaste on my toothbrush, I wanted it right in the middle and to kind of like catch on so it didn't spill onto the counter. It's so fascinating when you think about it. You manipulate everything you do. Everything. Now, if I was in a crummy mood and I had some like anger at somebody and I left the room and I angrily went and brushed my teeth, it's more likely that I would have missed the toothbrush and the big wad of toothpaste would have fallen to the counter because I would have needed perhaps to manipulate the universe into giving me a place to blow up that steam. See? It's that simple. We manipulate everything. So the idea is that to find creative new ways to be of positive influence out there, yes, it's manipulative, but every single person is manipulating every single experience. That doesn't mean that it has to be negative. It's not. It means to move things from one place to another. Okay. I was happy to see, and I don't know if the person who I talk about regarding this, but I was happy to see that Dunkin' Donuts is no longer using styrofoam, even at my local Dunkin' Donuts, which was the holdout. And I know I started this campaign about a year and a half ago to start to educate people about the half-life of styrofoam. Am I directly responsible for them not having styrofoam? No. Am I a drop in the bucket toward them not using styrofoam? Hell yeah. And that's a drop I want to be in the bucket, right? So the whole thing is be creative about how we influence positivity, our relationship with each other, our relationship with the environment. I am really happy to say that the most comments I got from the last class was that a lot of people had come back to me and said, I learned to dance with my eyes. I learned to love with my eyes. And I'm like amazed at how many positive interactions people had. And I'm also amazed to hear how people were noticing that everyone was friendlier, because no one knows how to be out there in the world with a mask on. This is foreign for all of us. We don't have a rule book. We just have we have rules, but no answers as to how to still help people feel connected or human or compassionate or real or loving or anything like that. So that's another way that we can be creative in how we influence with positive possibility. I know we're all entitled to crummy days and bad moods and just intolerance and getting sick of how people live and how they behave. But for the most part, again, if you are participating here, then you have a higher, way higher vibrational energy. So use it for positive, powerful influence as often as you can. If you're not in the greatest of moods or you feel intolerant, don't beat up on yourself for your own judgment. Just see it as a compliment to yourself that you're not living in the space that you're seeing others live. And then try to shift your head toward thinking, is there any way that I can make this one moment a little bit better for myself or for anyone else? Okay? I do have a question here. The question is, if you manipulate someone positively, how can you do so without taking advantage or feeling like your positivity is being used against you? It's really interesting as you develop more self-love and you move along in the process of enlightenment. One of the most necessary and important and inevitable steps of enlightenment is to actually care less about the opinions of others. It happens as a natural consequence of growing to like yourself and love yourself more. So I'm going to tell you a very brief version of why I don't have as much concern about other people's opinions. Back when I started this journey, I did an interview with CNN Money. And CNN Money is not my audience. But the journalist called me and I did it anyway. I knew that there was going to be repercussions, and I could have what I typically do when I'm in a mixed audience, meaning there's some ego and soul, or maybe more ego than soul. So in a mixed audience, I mainstream my message and I try to make it inviting for all people in the room at some level to have something to bite onto. I was in a mood that day and I didn't really feel like doing it because I knew they weren't my audience anyway. So I just told my version of truth in my answer. And it didn't go well. And within a couple of hours online, there was a lot of hate mail in the messages. People were saying, I hope her family gets run over by a bus. Someone started a I hate Karen Garvey website within 4 hours. And so now here I was just still on that threshold where I was moving from not loving myself to loving myself. So I was not prepared for this. So I found myself in the first hour or so reading the messages and writing imaginary messages back and trying to make people see what I meant. And then all of a sudden I just said, you know what? I have to stop. So I put somebody in charge of reading just to make sure that there was nothing that we needed to be aware of in the messages. And I never looked at it again. What was amazing was I started to, luckily I could communicate with guides and they helped me walk through it. But I started to see in terms of the anger that people were venting at me. And I saw it as their own disempowerment in life. And here they had this anonymous way to just get rid of a sense of having no power by beating up on me. So I said, well, that's okay, because we're not going to have a soul-to-soul conversation probably ever in this lifetime anyway. I actually did give answers that I knew were not intended for that audience. So over the next 24 hours after that, I used it as a way to inoculate myself from public opinion. I used it as a way to say, I can't change my message. I don't ever compel anyone to be with me, to listen to anything, to read a book, to watch a video, to read an essay, to do a session. Everybody comes by their own volition. So if they come to me, I'm going to keep it where I feel it and where I sense it, because there's no value to anyone if I shift it. So the same thing is true with being positive around people or manipulating them positively. If you see yourself as a loving person and you see that there's great opportunity to help move someone into a better perception possibly, then don't concern yourself with their opinion of you, and recognize that if there's any backlash, it is truly about them and where they are. There's a lot of reasons for people to be mean to us or to be unkind. And oftentimes, if it's someone that we know, it simply is that they feel threatened in their relationship with you as you grow. They feel like you're going to be left behind. So they'll do everything they can to lasso you and bring you back to a place where it's familiar to them. Strangers, it's simply about the reason judgment even exists is because when we judge, the comparative gives us the opportunity to either see that we are enough or to see that we are not enough. When we judge, we're either going to come at this with the lens of, I'm inferior, and we're going to see ourselves as less than whom we're judging, or we're going to see ourselves as superior, and we're going to come at the judgment with the lens that we do better, know better, are better. So judgment is really only a way for us to kind of modulate our own version of our worth. So don't hesitate to see that when other people are judging you or being unkind in any way, just recognize that it is their expression of where they are living in the moment, okay? So again, manipulating is not, it's not a bad thing. It means to move one thing from one place to another, all right? Let's just take the negative connotation out of that. Someone else sent me another question that I would like to address. When I was talking last time about letting the beaches know in New Jersey the value of outdoor exercise and nature and the meditation part of it and so on, and how those are some of the opportunities that this coronavirus is giving us as a globe, is to reconnect individually with nature, maybe even with body movement in ways that we haven't in the past. One person had asked me a question, and I think it was a good question. Every now and then I'll make an assumption that you guys know things I've said in the past, even if you haven't been at every seminar that I've given. And the curiosity in the question was, well, it seemed the parks were shut down because people were congregating in large groups and therefore being disrespectful to others and not, doing the social distancing. Okay, I didn't answer the question as though the response had been to avoid people who were not socially distancing. I answered it as, let's get on the same page and open up the parks and let us get the wins and the benefits. But understanding that that might have been the objection in closing them, I'm still going to give the same answer. Okay, if we take away privileges from all people because of one bad apple, I just mixed a lot of kind of offy metaphors there, but if we take everyone's privileges away, what we're going to be doing is we're going to create a society that only responds to the lowest common denominator. And part of our opportunity here is to ask our decision makers and our legislators to rise in their actions and to stop serving only the lowest common denominator. It's not acceptable for everyone to be punished for the wrongdoings of certain people. We can't. No one is ever going to obey whatever the government might think is in our best interest. It's never going to happen. It never will happen. And you know what? And it shouldn't happen, because if it happens, then we're losing the freedom of being in this country. We're allowed to make our own decisions. So some pushback from some groups of people, it's a necessary part of being in a democratic society. So what I would do is I would just more carefully word my letter or my email or anything to the New Jersey Parks and Rec, whatever department it is there. I would word it in a way that is taking into account the fact that some people don't follow the rules, okay? Now, I want to, first let me read this question here. Okay, it's a great question. So I will get to it. Just know you've been heard. Okay, know you've been heard. All right, almost every question is coming in privately, just so everybody knows. Okay, but what I want to do is I want to use this concept of those who are quote unquote wrongdoing. And I want to use it to open up a really big topic, which is really the theme for tonight. I am appreciative that most people who meet me and who value the information that I bring through, that we really are high vibrational energy people, that we have shifted from ego to soul on some level and often quite great levels. So what I'm going to talk about next, it's not necessarily something that I'm going to be able to sit down in Congress and talk about anytime soon, because I don't think that those ears are actually ready to understand it. They might listen, but I don't think they have yet the level of awareness collectively to understand what I'm going to say. When I was talking last time about the power of what we think, what we feel, what we believe, and the subsequent actions that we take based on what we think, feel, believe, it's how everyone creates reality. And if we keep thinking, feeling, and believing and taking actions that support the lowest common denominator, then what we're going to do is we're going to continue to participate in creating a world of chaos, disease, war, poverty, and so on. It's time that we increasingly stand up for what we believe. And what we believe is that individuals have an innate desire and an innate right and an innate ability to be deciders for themselves. Okay? What happens is when you take away someone's rights to decide, and you can see this clearly with children. If you over decide for your children lose their ability to trust themselves, and they lose their ability to make decisions when they get older. So what you have is you have an issue with dependency, or you have an issue with an inability to create an adult life that matches what it is that they would like to achieve because of that lack of self-trust. One of the reasons why we find so many groups of people that are willing to protest or quote unquote break the rules, even if we believe that it's making others potentially sick. One of the things that we're doing is we've created a society where people need power because so much power has been taken away from them. Even if it's being misdirected in your belief that it could be potentially causing people to get sick, the right to stand up for what we believe in, it's an important part of society's growth and development. It's an important part of us saying that we want less legislation. If you're raising a bunch of kids and you're really just guiding them in decision making, they trust, they know the link between decisions, their heart and their head, and society. They have an innately balanced sphere of my needs, your needs, and our needs. They live in harmony with each other, harmony with themselves, and harmony with the planet. But because we don't allow people to think in terms of being good decision makers and self-legislating or self-governing, then we lose our ability to think at all. And people look outside of themselves for answers. They look outside of themselves for suggestions, for guidance, for rules, for legislation. And one of the things that we want to really start to think about is how can we take back our power? How can we start to advance the possibility that individuals are innately capable? We might not look like we're innately capable right now because it's been thousands of years that the individual has been disempowered through governmental action and religious action. Thousands of years of disempowerment. So we're not going to get it back in a day. I just want you to appreciate that if people are congregating in a park, that the need for them is to live with individual freedom and power, and that is not a bad thing, all right? If something were more, potentially harmful, I'm certainly not going to say, throw a cherry bomb into the group inside the park, but I'm only trying to point out that it's important that people continue to adjust the amount of invasive intervention that our government has in our lives on every level, okay? Between governmental intervention and our fear of lawsuits, we have not been allowed to be free. Frankly, we're handing our freedom back all the time. So I believe that this is a chance for us to take back our freedom. When I visit the energy realm, it's sometimes it's hard to explain the state of consciousness and how much I discover or know or learn. And if you've ever had a moment where your consciousness has gone back to the state before you were born and revisited that state, then you'll understand the ecstasy, but also you'll understand the omniscience. There comes with this an all-knowingness. You have such a profound and pronounced ability to know all while you're returned into that state of consciousness, like all souls without bodies do. And one surprise for me in my earlier visits, it's not a surprise to me anymore, is that the closest vibration, and I can feel vibrations in the energy realm far more than I can feel vibrations here. You have a heightened sensitivity to it. The way I can describe it is like the color orange on Earth is dull in comparison to the color orange in the energy realm, okay? When I'm in the energy realm and I'm looking at Earth, it looks sort of like there's been a can of gray paint thrown all over everything. And then that vibrancy is just so intensified in the energy realm. So all energy is more vibrant. So we're very aware of the vibrations of things in the energy realm. But when I was really beginning to understand the vibration of love and recognizing that this is all that is, this is consciousness, this is the universe, this is the non-physical and the physical universe, that this is everything. When I was starting to understand the power of love, in the beginning, I started to think that in my experiences that bliss and ecstasy and peace, I used to think that these were as close to the vibration of love as we could be. But as I started to have more adventures there, it became very, very clear, vibrantly clear, that the closest vibration to the vibration of love is actually freedom. And so fundamentally, when we give up freedom, we are dialing down the vibration of love. We're handing love away. So when I'm working with people and clients, I usually try to do a slow climb. I start to say, let's start here. Let's find some peace, right? Let's find a little compassion. So we do a slow climb. I generally don't start off with freedom because it's almost too difficult to wrap your head around the importance and the significance about it. But freedom is, if you think about it, why do we fight for so much on earth? Why are we fighting for equity? Why are we fighting for human rights, civil rights, women's rights, the rights of gays, the rights of gender identification? Why are we always fighting for the rights of any particular group of people? The reason is because freedom means that every soul in a body or not in a body has the right to start at the same starting line as everybody else. there should be no diminished opportunities for any soul, regardless of any aspect of them. And that is freedom. That is freedom. That is freedom. So we're not going to get to be free unless we take the steps to get there. And Corona's giving us an opportunity to get there. I just have to take a quick question over here. Somebody asked me, when you say visit the energy realm, what do you mean? Visiting the energy realm is my simple way of stating that what I can do with my consciousness is to have a near-death experience and return home, except that I don't have snapped back and return to the body before I make the full journey. So my consciousness can go all the way back to how we all live and exist before we were born and we took bodies. That's where the bulk of my information, that's where all of my information comes from that I bring forth, is from the state of consciousness that we all reside in before we choose a human body. Okay? It's pure. It's I don't know how else to describe it. It's amazing. But the goal here is to live like that on Earth. It's not to return home unless you're visiting. So return home when it's natural. Please don't make that happen any sooner. So stay here. But let's get that state of being. Let's get that here. We can get that here. We can achieve that here. Okay? We can achieve it as individuals and we can achieve it collectively. Maybe the collective part, maybe not in this lifetime, but we can achieve it collectively. That basically is what this period of accelerated enlightenment is all about. It's to get us to take big steps toward achieving that state of consciousness on Earth. All right? There's no disharmony when we're not in bodies. There's no negativity when we're not in bodies. There's no disease. There's no war. There's no confusion. There's clarity. There's love. There's creativity. There's peace. There's the understanding that we're using our thoughts to project our reality. That's one thing that we seem to forget while we're here. But we know this when we're not in our bodies. We know it. I hope that answered your question. There's another one here. Okay. All right. So now I want to take this as a jumping off point to make an even bigger statement. Okay. I hinted upon it last time when I was speaking about what keeps us healthy, and what does keep us healthy really is love. There's a lot of confusion on Earth about body disharmony. Body disharmony, more than anything, is taught to us as to be something that happens randomly or as a consequence of lifestyle choice. Body disharmony does not happen randomly, and it does not happen only as a consequence of lifestyle choice. What body disharmony is, it's a disconnect from the soul. That's what it is. So our body is born of the earth. Our soul is eternal. When our soul is wanting to communicate with us, it oftentimes uses the body to help us have an opportunity to discover something that we forgot. So whatever part of our body is communicating with us, if we bump an elbow, if we have a sty in the eye, if we break our right ankle, I wonder if that person's on here, they know who I'm talking about, but if they break their right ankle, every part of our bodies, individually and systemically, is a way that our body is messaging us that we have separated from some bit of soulful wisdom. So we're not going to get injuries and illnesses and sicknesses and diseases, chronic or otherwise, unless there's an opportunity for us. It's knocking on our door because there's value in it. The opportunity is for us to awaken. And we have a very strong quest and soul's intention in being here. It's not uncommon for us to have tried and tried and tried in the human journey, but we have so many masks and layers, we just can't seem to get the messages of how the body or the universe or our guides are trying to communicate with us to wake up about something that we forgot. And at some points, it's actually more fruitful for us to return home, to go back to the energy realm, because our absence here can then potentially keep the ripples of our soul's intention moving around the earth more readily than we were moving them around the earth. It's a big concept, but when you understand universal truth and you tap into that river of universal knowledge, you get to fully understand that this is just a bit of your soul's journey. It's just a little bit of your soul's journey. And when we return home, when we die, we don't care how long we lived. We just don't. There's no badges for being 6 days old or 600 years old or 60 years old. We go home and we reflect on how much love did we receive? How much did we give? How much did we grow? How much did we help other people grow in their ability to give and to receive love? That's the whole point of being here, is growing in our ability to give and to receive love. That's going to play out in infinite different vehicles, different choices. Someone might be a nurse, someone might be an acrobat, somebody might be a teacher, somebody might be a sanitation engineer. Whatever we're using as our vehicle, the discovery is always to grow in our ability to give and receive love, and to help others to grow in their ability to receive love. We're growing back to the state that we were born in. Earth amnesia interfered. Our childhoods interfered. We're returning back to the state of consciousness of soulful perceptions. Let me see if I answered all those questions now. I think I did, but I remember there was one other that I didn't answer yet. All right, I don't know. I think there was one other, but hopefully it'll come up. So for you to return to the energy realm, you can go back if you were in the first series of this particular class. This is our second set. But in the first series, we put forth the practice that I laid out for us to go home, to return to that state of consciousness, okay? If I think of it, or someone can maybe remind me, I'll put that exercise in writing if I have it somewhere in writing, and I can send it out to everyone again, because on a daily or weekly basis, if you practice that exercise, you can renew your memory about the state of consciousness that we're in before we're born. And igniting that, our direct visceral relationship with the fact that we are eternal is essential as an ingredient for maximum happiness. All right? All right, let's see. So I think I answered everyone's questions, the ones that were emailed to me and the ones that are here today in the list. Oh, here's the one. Oh, I think I did. I answered that one too. All right, cool. There's a lot of questions here. Good, that's good. Now, what I want to talk about is tonight, in addition to everything that I am saying, is, oh, by the way, I forgot. After I sent out the email with everyone's homework, I received a whole bunch more. The idea of looking through the lens of what benefits are emerging from the coronavirus, you want that to continue. So between now and Monday, feel free to show me other signs or other things that you witnessed. And plus, everyone that sent them in to me since I sent it out a few hours ago, I will send another batch of emails out with that. I know, even though I'm living with that lens of benefit, when I read other people's experiences, it's very exciting for me. There's someone online tonight who's actually a nurse, and she's kind of on the front lines. I'm going to look at everybody's face and see if I could just happen to see her. I won't call you out, but let me just see if I could see her for my sake. There she is. Hello. She knows who I'm talking about. But like when I read that, it's just nice because it puts it into context and it puts it into such a variety of ways that people are living their individual experiences. And that makes it hit home. And it also helps us to find more wins in our day-to-day life as well. Okay? And so I will get the rest of those out. And you know what? I really, really appreciated everyone's personal messages to me. They don't go unnoticed. I read everything. I feel everything. Like, thank you, Sabrina, in particular. That one was one of the more recent ones that I got. They make me feel very, very good. I don't do this. I don't do any of this for me. I've already achieved the level of enlightenment that makes me feel like I'm in a state of happiness every day. I'm going to continue to grow, but everything I do because I want you guys to feel like this and live like this and breathe like this too. So when I hear that you had a really positive experience, it makes me feel really good. It really does. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so now what I want to also talk about is that in the first couple of years when I was communicating with guides, I know I probably should write those 2 years out in a book, because it would be very helpful, I think, to people if they understood the story and where so much of my information comes from. One of the things that happened in the beginning was when I started to communicate with guides, because I know I was book smart before all this started, so that had a tendency, and then I had no spiritual belief system, so it had a tendency to make me like uncomfortably skeptical. Let's say that. The guides might have said I was stubborn, but I like to say that I was uncomfortably skeptical. Okay, so in that state of being uncomfortably skeptical, the guides made they put forth a lot of effort to help me have realizations about the human journey and the experience, and also about the illusion of this trip here. And it's hard to tell you all of the miracles that happened, but in 2 years' time, there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miracles that happened that brought me from a state of consciousness of believing that the human experience was finite and limited and also disempowering, to the state of consciousness where I understood how individually and collectively we are incredibly powerful and we have the ability to create utopia or heaven on earth. So to move me from here to there in less than 2 years, it took a lot of effort and it took a lot of brilliant creativity from the guide's point to get me to do things. But luckily they had found that this was the first thing I'd ever really committed to in a very hard and passionate and driven way in my life. Having done well in school, I kind of skirted around and everything came easy. So this was the first time I actually put forth a ton of effort with dedication. So luckily they understood I was going to participate as long as they were willing to show and guide me. So much of what I know comes from those 2 years. So in addition to having daily conversations anywhere from 2 to 3 hours a day with guides, unearthing every single thing, I asked every question. If you can think of a question, I asked it. Why do ladybugs have spots? What's worse, the death penalty or murder? I went through everything you could possibly think of, everything, and got the answers. But in addition to asking and getting all the answers, one of the other things that they did with me was they helped me remove the masks and layers from my own childhood. And I didn't have an easy childhood, and I had a really rough childhood. So I had a lot of pain, and I had a lot of misunderstanding, and I had a lot of dialed down self-love, or maybe not much self-love at all. And during those 2 years, they gave me exercises to do. And I somehow intuited that these exercises were essential. And so I did them and I practiced them, and I remained dedicated to them. And if I would go a few hours without them, I would actually find that I would slip back into the states of unhappiness or negativity or fear or worry or all of those other things, how I used to live. So I would remember to go back to those tools, and I would remember to go back to those tools. And one of the primary things I want to talk about tonight is, as we're looking at our own relationship today with abundance and with connectedness and with moving back into, a functioning society, it's really important that you understand that there are some essential tools that are as important as drinking water and breathing, okay? I don't know how else to say it, but what I can tell you is, having coached probably 10,000 people over the last decade, when people don't use the most basic tools, they start to crumble, they start to falter, they start to fall, they start to get sucked into that negative space or chaotic existence of humanity. Use your tools. If you had to choose between a glass of water and your tool, use your tool. There are actually miracles that are proven on earth where people went extraordinary amounts of time without food, or without some of the most basic things that we think are necessary to keep us alive. Yet, if you don't practice your tools that keep you connected to universal truth, to getting rid of earth amnesia, to staying soulfully aware, if you don't use that, you're more apt to get sick in any way, more apt to find lack in any way. The lack can show itself in your relationships, your relationship with your body, or your relationship with the material world. So right now, there's so much that's up in question. There was a problem with chat being only private. Now you can, okay, cool. I thought that was weird that everybody was asking me privately. Okay, now your questions will come to everyone if you want them to. That's kind of cool. What was I saying? Someone type it out to me quick. Someone unmute yourself and tell me what I was talking about. I do that all the time. Anyone?
Breathing.
Anyone?
Always choose your
Marty, what was I saying?
Breathing, breathe, your tools.
Okay.
Natural
Thank
gifts.
you.
first.
Thank you. Thank you. Now you're all thinking, oh, she's really not that bright, is she? Thank you, Marty. Yes. Okay. So the tools are that it's important to clear your mind. It's important to find the way that you get yourself out of the way. It's important to disconnect from the human experience. It's important to be mindful of what you're focusing on. It's important to feed your being as importantly as you would feed your body, okay? I find it so amazing that in 2020, we still have people who are, buying organic fruit and, measuring out how many proteins or carbs they have in a given day, and they're doing this, and they're drinking their water, and they're running 3 miles a day, and then they come home and they turn on the news. Come on! That doesn't make any sense. If you watch the news, you're poisoning your body, absolutely poisoning your body. You're better off having a big old 20-ounce steak with French fries, melted cheese, and a bottle of rum than watching the news. I don't know how else to say it. What are you feeding yourself? Who are you talking to? Who are you playing with? What are your conversations? What are you reading? Number one tool, what are you feeding yourself? I feel for people when, someone all of a sudden dies of a massive heart attack, and they ate clean and they exercised and they worshiped their bodies and they did this and they did that. And then the client comes to me and they're all confused. Like, come on, look what they were doing, but they died anyway. I don't get it. Why should I eat this shit if I can eat ice cream and not die? And he did this and he did die, And I'm like, no, that's not it. Because you're not bringing in the spiritual aspect of it. The earthly physical part is only a tiny little part. It's only a tiny part. It's only a tiny part. The much bigger part of how we experience our well-being and our abundance in any part of our lives has to do with what we're feeding our being, not our bodies, but our being. I think when I sent out the homework, your guides chose the little picture I put in there. I didn't even think of it because I didn't know what we were going to talk about tonight. But the picture in your homework, it says, what you focus on will expand, right? Doesn't it? For those of you who read it, that's exactly what it says. I didn't even think about that. They asked me to put that in there. And I went through a list of things I could have written there, and the guides clearly picked that one out. I didn't realize it was going to be such a theme, but that's the bottom line, people. What you focus on will grow. Whatever you focus on will grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. If you focus on being disgruntled, you're going to bring in more opportunities for people to piss you off. If you focus on being sick, you're going to get sicker. If you focus on not having enough money, you're going to have less money coming your way. If you focus on being disempowered, you're going to be less powerful. If you focus on being lonely, you're going to be more lonely. Whatever you focus on gets bigger and bigger and bigger, okay? And one thing that's very, very common for a lot of people is that they think if they add a little bit of something positive, then they're okay, even if they put something negative at the end of it. Let me show you how this works. I am going to eat healthier, but right now I've got little kids and the only things in the house is, their Oreo cookies and their mac and cheese. As soon as you say, but, from a positive to a negative, and you end with a negative, the only thing the universe takes away is the last thing you said. That's the thing that's out there. Did you ever see a really cool movie and then the ending is just like horrible and it's so disappointing? And so did you like the movie? No. When you had that really crappy ending, you walked out of there and like, how could they? How could they kill him? Or how could they break them apart? Or how could he die? And you're mad and you don't like the movie. You don't recommend the movie. Whatever you put out there last is the feeling. It's the vibration. So what you focus on will expand, but keep that high note out into the universe when you're thinking of positive possibility. Leave it on a high note. If you absolutely positively must focus on something that you feel is negative or disempowering or an obstacle, start your conversation with that, but end it on a high note. So it could be, my kids are little and there's a lot of Oreos and mac and cheese around the house, so it's a little bit harder. But I do feel my willpower strengthening and those foods are beginning to repel me. You ended on a high note. You didn't end on, I can't do it now because of this. Always end on a high note. Always end on where you want to go. Never end on where you were and don't want to be. All right? So the tools are that you want to be very mindful of separating from the earthly chaos, having alone time, finding your personal way to communicate with the universe, with guides, with your higher self, whether it's through meditation, walks in nature, Zen activities, exercise, yoga, Tai Chi, Chai Tea, whatever. Whatever you use, make sure you're doing it with as much dedication as you would to take care of any aspect of your life that you value. Whatever you value, you take care of it. Take care of that aspect of your life as much as you take care of anything that you value, okay? You would never think about it being optional to change your kid's diaper when they needed a diaper change. So why would you neglect something as important as getting rid of the crap that you've been subjected to by being human? Don't do that. Change it and get it out. Change it and get it out. I had my biggest openings when I would run, and I wasn't that much into exercise, so it was kind of weird that was the way that I found out I could get myself out of the way and to communicate with the universe. So that your homework assignment is to, doesn't matter who you're living with or how many people you're stuck in the house with, and it doesn't matter if you're working from home and it's stressful, or it doesn't matter if the weather is horrible, or it doesn't matter if you don't have a bathtub. It doesn't matter what is going on in your life right now, but what your whole entire homework assignment is before we speak again on Monday is to, it's still so wet. It's not going to draw. I know it won't. All right, I'll tell you. Get yourself out of the way. 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 Send me your homework and tell me how you got yourself out of the way and what positive experiences you had as a result. Tell us if you meditated, practiced yoga, went for a run, exercised, went for a bike ride, went for a long drive. Yes, you're allowed to drive. You are allowed to drive. Went for a long drive. Did the exercise that I talked about in the first 3 classes. Whatever it is you did, please tell us how you did it and what the result was. And today is Thursday, so you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You have 4 solid days, so you should have at least 2 or 3 examples how you got this done. But please share with us, because we tend to be limited in our ability to expand into how we might get it done for ourselves. When we share with each other, we get to really broaden our idea of how we can get it done. So the more we share, the more other people can say, this is a lot simpler than I may be making it, and I can do this. I can do this. So let's see your variety, and let all of us hear about what the results were as well. I will continue to send the homeworks of showing more soft living, more soulful living, less judgment, and how people are already changing. I'll continue to send those homeworks again, but please send your homeworks in how I got myself out of the way and the positive results because of it. All right? And that's it for now. I did see a message that somebody didn't get the homework that I had earlier sent. What do we do? How do you get in touch with me? Email me, Karen at Karen Garvey, if you didn't get the first assignment, and I'll make sure that you got that one as well. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do with the homework this time is the ones that you've sent, the softer and no judgment and the benefits I'm seeing, I'll just add them to the top of that homework, so you'll get all of them in one document instead of having to toggle back and forth. Okay? All right, I'm going to do something. I know we're 6 minutes late. I went over tonight. I try not to go over, but I did go over. I'm going to do something. I just want to see your faces. So I'm going to change my view here, and everyone can unmute themselves so I just want to see everybody. I want to look at your faces. I love, 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 love seeing you. And even if you have only your name up and I don't get to see your face, I even love seeing your names. I'm so proud of all of you for living so far above the line. I really am. And I know, I mean, you look at these gorgeous, gorgeous, shining faces here. If we are all together on Zoom right now, and we are in a room, and we are on this planet, how much amazing power is that? Right? It is a lot of power. That is a lot of power. We and this growing group of people, we can do anything. We can do anything. All right. Thank you.
Love you.
Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you. Great class again.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Love
Karen.
Bye, Karen. Thank you.
Everybody.
Karen.
Thank you
so much.
Hi.
Bye, Ann.
And
Bye, guys.
Bye, Jeannie.
Bye.
bye, Patty.
Good night, Jim Bob.
Bye, Mary Ellen.
That was
That was good.
That was definitely a good one.
That was
Yeah,
good.
that was very good. Oh, it's so nice even when people are signing off and I get to see other faces.
Karen, you're glowing. Just
Oh, God, you're so
Oh,
cute. I wish I could hug you all.
yeah.
You're all adorable. You're so cute. You're so cute. I'm so happy to see you all. I really am. I like this private little chat room here now.
This
Hi.
is very special.
Bye.
Bye.
I like the
Good night,
pointer.
everybody.
Boom, boom,
Love you.
boom,
See you
boom,
Monday.
boom, 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 boom.
Bye.